And this is Lazarus Returns, Fresh and Reload. I'm here with TPK Games and the rest of the crew. We're going to go over their new Kickstarter today. It's been up for a few days already. They've met their goal. Now they're just aiming for those stretch goals. We'll start with the author. I figured that's kind of what's earned. So we'll go with Captain Eye Patch over here. Skip, want to give us a little information about yourself?
Hi, Eric. Yes, I'm the writer-author of Fen of the Five-Fold Maw. This is my first published work for TPK Games. Personally, I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. Did an awful lot of different things in my life till I got about halfway through it, decided I wanted to write adventures. Started writing one about 4 years ago. Met Brian and PJ at the first convention I ever went to. They saw it. Brian offered to edit it for me. He read through it, liked what he saw, and invited me to write freelance for Total Party Kill Games.
Actually, it kind of goes a little more like this. PJ saw Skip, said, "Man, that guy is really dashing."
We could see Skip was dashing if you would back away from the camera some. There you go. Now he's dashing.
Well, that's kind of the way I remember it, but...
So, first written adventure ever published?
No, I published that written adventure that Brian edited for me. I published for free on the Cannon Fire website.
Okay.
The inaugural issue of Cannon Fire Chronicles. It's a sister publication to the Orth Journal. It's a World of Greyhawk fan design. Okay. Well, shortly Brian was he was ready to publish The Ship of Fools, and we were having a Skype meeting, much like this one, and he asked several of us freelancers to do a once-over, a final look-over before he made it available. I spent 5 hours, sent him a 5.5-page document full of editing comments, and he and PJ decided to have me edit all of the TPK Games products from then on.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no doubt, because when someone sends you that much editing stuff and it makes you cry, then that really, you know that person.
Well, that means they don't care for your feelings, and they're totally willing to edit shit out of your stuff.
That's right. And Skip is a heartless, soulless bastard.
I have found that I so very much enjoy correcting other people and getting paid for it.
I never would have guessed that.
He does a great job. But really, Skip's first adventure, it was set in the world of Greyhawk, and granted it was a fan-released product, but it was so good, I really, really wanted to play it myself. Unfortunately, time and distance have not ever allowed that. But it was so good, we said, hey, Skip, if you're interested in writing for us, along with editing, I got just the thing for you. And that's kind of how this all began.
Gotcha, okay. So what do you do, Brian?
Well, I'm co-founder along with PJ Harn here, and I'm kind of the guy who helps manage all the projects and everything at TPK Games. Yeah.
Brian is our timeline keeper.
Okay.
He does everything. He writes, he keeps things going, he yells at me, which I need.
Man, sometimes you gotta yell at people.
Well, yeah, it's true, and I need it the most.
I'm thinking that just means I'm the least sane of us all. That's just my level of crazy keeps it going. Yeah.
And his total lack of need for sleep, because beneath that fair facade is a lich, by the way.
Is that what the pirate hat's for? He's really some deep, dark lich.
Throwing you off, man. Yeah. So we were playing around earlier. For those of you who are paying attention, we were playing around earlier, and we found all these crazy hats and monocles and stuff. And
this would be before I got here, or they wouldn't be here.
There's no chance we're doing this whole interview with pirate hats and stuff. I had to.
Oh my god. So we have the author, the founder, co-founder. I'm doing cartography for the group this time. I met Brian. Was it GameholeCon, or was it?
No, GaryCon.
Or was it GaryCon? I think it was GaryCon, then GameholeCon, or vice versa. We just started talking. Love the products. I was really on board for when they were doing all the stuff for the new critical hit system, which did really well. And if you have a link for that, Brian, drop it in. I'll put it in the show notes as well. But critical hits are something that have been overlooked in Pathfinder and needed to be, I don't know, ramped up. So it turned into this get your crit together. And now if I'm correct, the new adventure you guys are doing is actually being compatible with Laying Waste?
That is exactly correct.
It even has like a little logo, doesn't it?
Yep. So
Nice.
what we did was we created a logo to let people know which adventures are pre-statted correctly for Laying Waste. And let's be honest, it's not a whole lot of math that changes on the stat blocks. But
No, but it's nice just to look and know.
Absolutely. This way, it's less work for you, and you know that adventures are designed for that system. So even if you don't have the system, you can still use it as per normal, no problem. But if you do play with it, this is going to make your life a lot easier. And we're hoping to pass this logo on to other publishers. So if they're interested, they can put Laying Waste compatible on their cover and design the stat blocks in the same manner.
I know I would. Our group has been using it since early release. We've beaten the shit out of that. Literally beaten it.
Yep.
So yeah. So let's. I guess before we get into the adventure, since we're on R&R, we're gonna get into the other thing that's important. I'm assuming we all have beer today.
Oh yeah.
Drinks.
Yep.
All right. Someone. Well, yeah, dude. He's got Drunken Mime on his. He better have a beer. So I'm doing Capital Brewery's Fishing in the Dark. I believe it's their seasonal. It's a dark porter. Or sorry, dark pilsner. A lot of people already poured theirs, but I'm gonna pour mine. This thing is black.
Mm,
That's a pilsner. It's not a stout.
that's impressive. for a
I'm
Pilsner.
kind of excited. Ooh, wow. I'll let you guys go. I'm gonna drink for a minute. What else do you guys have with you for drinks?
Oh, I'll go here. Let's see. So this is the left-hand milk stout. I don't know if you can see that
Had
very
it
well. But
before?
yes. It's
Which
like a
I left it at Brian's house.
sucker. It's is that a porter, PJ?
No, it's a milk stout. It says
It's
right
milk
there.
stout.
Yeah. But delicious. It's like chocolate milk almost. Delicious.
Oh. Wow, this is amazing. And I know Skip said he got something he can't get in his tiny, tiny town he's in. So he had to steal it while he was by Brian.
No, that
Right.
was
No.
PJ.
I'm the designated driver of the group.
And thank you for that.
No hitchhikers, Skip.
Yeah, dude, not again. Don't let hitchhikers in again. Don't do that.
No, and the correct saying is that Brian lives in a tiny, tiny town, and I couldn't get one of the most popular beers out there.
Really?
Sam Adams cream stout.
You can get that everywhere in
You know,
Milwaukee.
Yeah, you can get it everywhere, anywhere except in the mecca of Waterloo Cedar Falls, which is
Brian, I think you need to move out of like the middle of nowhere.
No. I bought it at Brian's, which is only 2,000 people. I live where there's 100,000 people, and I can't get that. here.
Weird. That
Yes,
is not right.
exactly
That's
right.
not right at all.
Well, you see the thing,
On the
Peter,
flip side,
that's actually from last year, and the horse-drawn cart.
So it's aged? You aged your Sam Adams a year? Well, I picked this for two reasons. So, fan of the Five-Fold Maw. For those watching don't know, it's an adventure. It's based on the Pathfinder system. It's got the Laying Waste rules. I did this Fish in the Dark because while I've been working on the map, I've noticed everything I'm doing is kind of dark and evil-looking, and everything's getting darkened up even more. And I'll be honest, I would never want to fish in this marsh. I would never do it. I'm not going to pull out any of the encounters that I have on a fishing line and hope to God to make it out. So this is to you, Five-Fold Maw, and your douchiness that is there. Holy crap.
Your map work is incredible. I really appreciate it.
Drink to that.
Looks just
I have so much more to show you guys. You're going to be so excited. We got another one we'll be debuting this coming week, which will be the hut encounter. But let's get into this a little bit. What influenced you guys most as writers? Skip, Brian, whoever wants to go first. Like, what adventure most influenced you?
Well, actually, I'm going to pass this on to PJ because he and I had such an incredibly similar thought process on what we should do as a publisher. Because let's face it, there's 90 million Pathfinder compatible publishers out there.
There are a shit ton.
And
a metric
you know what?
shit ton.
There's a lot of very talented people out there, and so in order to truly distinguish yourself from all the other good and bad writers, what do? You need a brand. And so PJ, why don't you talk a little bit about our brand? Who are we? What do we do, and why?
Well, Brian and I discovered early on. Yeah, devil. Discovered early on that we both have a passion for the uglier side of things. That if the movie didn't end the way everybody wanted it to end, it became a favorite for us, and that stemmed right into our gaming. Right here, right now, the thunder just ominously rolled in the background. I don't know if you can hear it.
That's awesome.
But we liked it dark. The other favorite thing between the both of us was gritty, and we found certain things lacking in published adventures that we were playing, and that was balance seemed to be more important. Can the players easily pass this or pass this? Blah blah blah, and it seemed to just interfere with story, and also interfered with where was that challenge when when you first started playing the game, your characters were running for their lives. Where was that? And so we decided that we wrote well enough to be comparable to some of these people out here, so why weren't we doing it? And, why weren't we writing it? Yeah, I know somebody was laughing at why weren't we doing it. Let's just drop that, guys.
It's true, though.
Right.
We were thinking, okay, one of our big philosophies, like PJ was saying, is we hate the challenge rating system.
Nobody.
Yes,
let's be real.
It's totally there to add, so that the game master can educate, is this an appropriate encounter? But you know what? If you read a novel, the writer is not saying, oh, well, challenge rating 3 monster versus challenge rating 3 party, blah, blah. No, he's writing a story.
Didn't we all get rid of that shit halfway through as GMs? I haven't used that since ever.
Well, it's hard to publish without it, though, because
I know.
Some players. Right. So what we did is you create the adventure. Your monsters were generally CR appropriate, but we would add a level to them or make the environment different, and then just add genuinely what we hope is scary background information fluff.
Right. Well, I mean, but don't you think that the EC? I mean, I'm going to ask some questions on this, I guess. At
Sure.
ECLs and CRs, don't you feel they're more for the person designing the game, or is it more for the person running the game? Because I know me as a designer and a GM, it's different. Like when I run my games at home, I don't worry about CRs because I chop hit points and change them behind the scenes as I'm running a game. And that's kind of how, when you write a game, you balance as you play test. You start at a certain hit point or a certain base attack, and you kind of chop those down and change your notes when you go back and finish it up. So is the ECL and CR, is it more for the GMs sitting down to read it? Or is it more for you guys to balance the actual game?
Yes. It's definitely an art and not a science.
Okay. So it's an art, not a science. So you're saying all the numbers, it's just a science? No, it's an art.
When I am writing, I try to put in the CRs just because I believe it's expected. But I think that, at least I hope that the only thing that GM uses that for is sort of as a warning. If the GM sees that the CR listed for this encounter is higher than the average level of his player characters, then he knows that he might need to take it just a little bit easy or provide the characters with an opportunity to escape. It's just kind of a warning for the GM. That's all it should be.
But ultimately, this all goes back to Temple of Elemental Evil, Castle Greyhawk, that sort of thing. You know, some of those adventures were just absolutely crazy. Like, you open up the room and there's a red dragon. Where did the red dragon come from? Who knows? But the point is, the point is that you shouldn't have that expectation that you're going to be just fine because the designer said, okay, they have to have a challenge-appropriate, monster in this next section of the dungeon, whatever. No, we're telling a story, and the story dictates the adventure. And so if you fear that there might be a pit fiend in the next room, don't go in it.
My players always fear for their lives, and I think that's definitely... If you don't fear for your character, then it's really hard to drive a story because the GM can't make you feel anything. There's no emotion then. It's literally just dice rolls, numbers, and damage.
Right.
But if you can make them scared that their player's going to die, their character's going to die, they've been playing for the last 6 months, year, hell, maybe they just spent 10 hours making their guy, you can get a better response out of people.
Exactly. And you know what? This is very true because take a look at Game of Thrones. And Rick, you're an author. You will probably appreciate this. Why do people enjoy Game of Thrones so much? Because George R.R. Martin wrenches your heart and soul as you're watching every episode, and you don't know if your favorite character is going to die.
Yep, every time you come back rooting for them to live one more episode or one more chapter.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I feel that's the way that adventure should be written too. You should be thrilled. You should be entertained. You should get your adrenaline pumping as you're playing through them, and that's really what TPK games is about. We're not here to kill your characters, unless you're dumb, or you don't work together, or your dice rolls are bad, which is why I don't play these games. But
Nice.
Yeah, but these GMs are.
Well, so that's. It sounds like. We'll fall back to the question then here. We're talking about adventures that influence you. You guys are talking about wanting to make things dark, gritty, things that make your players go, "Am I going to make it through this?" Skip, what about you? What influenced you most?
Well, the dark and gritty part. One of my favorite adventures was the original Ravenloft.
I love me some Ravenloft.
If players are not scared for their characters the entire way through that adventure, then the GM's doing it wrong.
Yep,
that's right. Good
But the very first adventure that I ever read, 11 years old, To Keep on the Borderlands, came in the red box basic set. That was a sandbox, and it was set up so the PCs could go anywhere they wanted, and if they picked the wrong cave when they were first level, they were dead.
Yeah.
And I noticed that adventures got away from that. The written modules got away from that later on. But of course, the Giants and the Drow modules, same thing. If players were dumb and just walked in and thought they could take on anything, they'd get slaughtered. You had to play smart. So I like adventures where players are required to play their characters as if it was more of a real-life adventure. Even if you're, Dolph Lundgren or Rambo, you don't just walk into the enemy camp and start shooting. You sneak up and take out the scouts quietly, and you fight cautiously.
Yep.
So I like adventures that reward player caution and intelligence, and punish them when they act foolishly.
We have something here too, real quick. Back to the CR from Trevor. It's not really a question. It's actually a good guideline for stuff. CR is a good baseline, but it has to be adjusted to your group. If you have a massively min-max group, they're going to breeze through anything you do that's a CR equal, kind of their level. And that's very true. I believe the biggest thing that 3.5 brought us was the simple templates, where it was like, I want mine to be a little better. Here's a +2 to his base attack, +2 to his damage, and maybe he has 10 extra hit points. If you're finding that your players breeze through an encounter that should be equal, next encounter, ramp it up a little bit.
So, Eric, I don't know if you've ever read our Bleeding Hollow adventure, but
I have it. It's behind me, but I've not read it yet.
We kickstarted it. It was unanimously 5 stars for
Nice.
all the reviews. Okay, and so one of the things that we did was we designed everything to be at a static CR for the adventure. So, for instance, I think 4th or 5th level when you begin. However, every single monster stat block has advancement rules. So if your party is trending more towards the power of CR5 or CR6, you can give it to them hard and dirty if you want to. And the Fen of the Five-Fold Maw is another one of these adventures where if you don't play smart, if you don't work together, things could go horribly, horribly south for you. And so people really, really enjoyed the free-formness of the Bleeding Hollow, and I think they're really going to enjoy the kind of the Five-Fold Maw for the same reasons.
I just want to say the other thing that these two adventures have in common is the love that Skip and I both have for really old school feel in adventures. So they both kind of feel like just one step beyond the caves of chaos, so to speak. So that's Skip and I are kind of akin in heart that way. We like our stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, it's
Old
fun.
school feel.
But with the most cutting-edge, up-to-date Pathfinder rules.
Right.
Right. So let's move on. We know why you guys are doing this. Let's actually get into what we're here for. Let's talk about Fen. What exactly is it, and what kind of adventure are people going to be getting out of this? I get the impression it's going to be visceral. Maybe that's because I've read it. I don't know. It is a vicious adventure. What are we getting into by running into this marshy wasteland?
Have you seen the cover?
Shh, Hydra. Shh.
Go ahead, Skip.
Well,
Give us some highlights. Give us an idea.
it starts off with a vicious ambush. I want the PCs to know that, or I want the players to know that their characters will be in danger from the first. They head to a village, which they can use as a base, but that's not even the perfectly safe place for them. Then they head into the swamp, and they stay in the swamp until they're dead or they complete the mission.
I like how he puts it down first.
So,
Now
Skip, what's the big hook, or some of the hooks to get players engaged into the adventure?
Well, I had fun with the hooks because, well, I took a cue from my fellow TPK Games colleagues. You guys like beer so much. I used ale as one of the hooks. The PCs just can't get the ale that they like, and they have to go on an adventure to find out why it's not being delivered. I figured maybe 1% of the gaming population would use that hook, but
Oh, I'm pretty sure more than that.
it would be a very
75.
devoted
The
1%.
spice must flow.
Yeah.
There you go.
Let's be real. My entire website based on beer and gaming. People are going to use the hook.
My favorite hook, however, is called Oracular Vernacular, and an NPC comes up and speaks with divine inspiration in a language barely understandable to the PCs, and it will be it will be barely understandable to the players as well, unless they speak this particular ancient language, which I have Googled at length to write up. But of course, they can use divination and some other methods to figure out exactly what is being said. But so anyway, they can have that divine inspiration to get them set on this path as well.
We have a couple people in here. One said "Hail Hydra" immediately.
Yeah, that's right.
And then another one asked, did we get to the secret stretch goal, the ones with Hooker and Blow? That's not a stretch goal yet, James. Unless you're one of those two things, then maybe it'll be a stretch goal. But no, so you've got ways to get people involved. We're used to that Adventure Pass where it's kind of, here's how to bring your party in. I do have a question from someone in an email asking, how are you going to handle the player side of things? Yeah, this adventure is for the GM to run. Is there going to be anything like we see for Pathfinder where there's the player's guide? Is there going to be anything along those lines for players to get themselves together for this adventure as well?
We don't typically do that because it's not an adventure path per se. However, that might be something that we could include a few pages to, just to really help prep the party, have the players have a good sound base. Because believe me, you're not going to want to play an anti-paladin going into this because he's going to drown a horrible, horrible death. But, you know,
I'm okay with that as a GM.
I think that's a great idea. I think we could give at least a few pages devoted just to setting up the party for success and making sure that you can get a good group together and what you need, what would be appropriate to the adventure.
Right.
It is an interesting idea. I did provide several places in the adventure for the PCs to find out information that would be helpful. You know, find out information about the swamp and how to prepare themselves, but it's not directed at the players from their point of view. It's from the PC's point of view.
You could put 1 to 2 pages together. I mean, you don't have to have a 10-page book like the player's adventure path is, because that's 6 books. This is one. How long do you say this adventure is, roughly?
I don't know.
How long does it take to run through it?
In a 5 or 6 hour session at conventions, I've generally gotten through about a third of it.
Text. So I've never run it in 12 hours yet.
Well, I'm figuring 3 game sessions is kind of what I was looking at with it.
3 or 4
that are blocks.
5 or 6 hours long, yes.
Yeah, okay. So let's say 4 sessions at 4 hours. 5 hours?
You could do that if you...
If you're cooking.
The more role-playing you do, of course, the longer it's going to take, and there's certainly opportunities for all kinds of role-playing. So that's why I'm hesitant to put a time.
That's awesome then, because that means, yeah, if you're just the type that likes to crunch through it and kill things, have good combat, because there's some insane combat in here, you could do it. But if you want more of the role-playing tied with that, you're going to get a good, even if you're playing once a week, you're going to almost get a 2-month span out of this game.
Absolutely.
So with that said, I think you could do a 2-page thing with like traits for swamplands. You could probably do a feat or 2 for that. How to use skills in the area. How to handle armor issues and being really heavy, drowning. Things along those lines. Maybe some like fire-blooded or dragon-blooded. And you guys have some stretch goals for that as well, which we'll get into here. But it's a good question. I definitely think that you should have at least a page or 2 for the players. It may be something they can just print out off the website.
So, Skip, one thing people might not know is that how are people getting around in the Fen of the Five-Fold Maw?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's a swamp, and so, as has been mentioned many times, you don't want to be heavily armored. You could still do it, but you'll have some serious difficulty. However, this particular swamp is full of mangrove trees and giant lily pads. The mangrove trees have huge root clusters. When they grow in clumps, the detritus falling and grasses growing create small islands. And then the giant lily pads are filling in about 2/3 of the rest of the water area. So the PCs can really travel quite easily as long as they're just walking along the tops of the giant lily pads.
Is that stuff considered rough terrain or acrobatics for it at all?
In combat, yes.
Out of combat, no. Gotcha.
Out of combat, I'm assuming players or the PCs are not, doing cartwheels or anything on the giant lily pads. In combat, yes. Every step you take runs a small risk, and the farther you move during combat, the more at risk you are of falling through.
Into the water?
Yes, which makes combat on the giant lily pads much more dangerous.
Yeah, it's and you guys have that kind of, if I remember the rules correctly, it's kind of put down in a very simple check that you're not making something every single time you're up. It encompasses the combat, doesn't it?
Yeah, you only make basically you make an acrobatics check every round in which you choose to move. The farther you move, the higher the check, the DC of the check.
Little chart, Brian. Needs to be a little chart.
Okay, we'll get charts.
Charts are the thing.
Although I did see a ninja play through this one time, and that was amazing.
Because he doesn't give a shit about any of that.
That's right. He's like, oh, look what I can do.
I take 10. I take 10.
Ninjas and monk characters do fairly well in the acrobatics.
Right.
part of it.
Have your base guys get ready to swim, man, or be large enough that you can touch the bottom.
That's right.
Interesting, but
I had
even
somebody using large person a lot so they could just walk around in a lot of the water.
even that will cause you problems in this swamp, though.
Well, you're slower.
It's a mucky bottom.
Yep, you'll be slower. So let's see here. I don't want any spoilers. There's some stuff here about inspiring combat. What do we got here? What is this?
I tried to make this a very interesting combat. I don't want anybody to go in and say, "Oh, we're just fighting another group of goblins." That's boring. Everybody's done that. So, first of all, you think, okay, lizard men, lizard folk. Everybody's fought lizard folk, so I've got to do something different. I did quite a few things different, but I'll give you one example. This lizard folk tribe is primitive, so their weapons tend to break. So I gave their warriors the splintering weapon feat, which means every time they hit with a weapon, it splinters, causes an additional 1d4 bleed damage. Now, that's quite a bit, especially since they're throwing javelins from atlatls. They're peppering you with these ranged weapons, and every hit does an extra d4 of bleed, cumulative with every hit.
Skip, is that crits or with every hit?
So, and that was I didn't make any of this up. This is
That's a legit Pathfinder feat I have used.
Exactly.
Oh my god.
So what you do is you have a character that has like fragile flint weapons, wood weapons, and when they hit them, it causes bleed. Add laying waste to that, people die.
Now, the balancing part of that is it's the lizard folk ranged weapons, of course, that give them this advantage. If the PCs can engage them in melee, and the lizard folk have to resort to their spears and long spears in hand-to-hand combat, and those start breaking on them, then they have to use their backup claws and teeth, which aren't nearly as effective. So the party has an opportunity to minimize that lizard folk advantage.
Note
If
to
they
self.
play smart.
Bring somebody who can sunder weapons. Check.
So, on any ranged weapon, that is a pretty good chance that's going to happen, because you just give the weapon the broken condition, and bam, enjoy the bleed damage.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's that kind of suckiness.
Welcome to
I'll post up a
TPK.
picture here for everybody too, because we have a really good.
More clerics.
We have a really good picture of Jacob's lizard man on the web.
God, yes.
So I'm going to toss that up here for everybody as well. If you haven't already seen it, scrolling at the bottom.
I love Jacob Blackmon's work.
It's amazing.
Danny's
So
a good
you
leading
got some
person.
unique combat then, and you did the intriguing. You got some good landscape, the way you have to move around and whatnot. I guess my question, and I'm sure some of you guys wonder this as well, how much playtesting has this game went through? Because we've all gotten adventures where I feel like it was played at home on the toilet while drinking a beer, and there's absolutely no playtesting done.
We played tested this quite a bit. I think it was half a dozen different conventions. I ran different parts of it, 2 or 3 sessions per convention. Made changes every time between the conventions based on how it went. I also play tested it with my home group here. Of course, my home group min-maxes their characters, so they kind of breeze through all the combats. But then the chase at the end hosed them because they'd min-maxed their characters for combat and hadn't focused on their skills. So yeah, they paid the price for that kind of min-maxing there. I
Love
was
it.
laughing
Love
at that.
Todd Westcott says Ultimate Gladiators laugh at rough terrain.
You know what? Honestly, I would love to see Ultimate Gladiator run in this game. That would be so much fun.
Dude, yeah, I want to kill the thing at the end so I can make new badass armor.
So, speaking of which, Skip, I don't know how much you're willing to give away here, but would it be safe to say that the adventure's not over when the Fen, or the Five-Fold Maw, is defeated?
Yes, and I hope the people we have listening are DMs, not the players. One of the things that I really wanted to do was to sort of freak the players out. Once they defeat the Five-Fold Maw, I want them to think this whole way through that they just have to defeat the Maw and, you know, kill the...
I would not say anything else.
And that's the end.
That's
but it's not.
But it's not.
Welcome to a TPK Games adventure, folks.
Exactly.
Welcome to how you get destroyed at a TPK Games.
That's the beginning of the hard part.
That's the beginning. That's the beginning. I'm out of potions. I have no healing left. Our cleric's down. Oh, tough shit. There's more to do.
Exactly.
And there is.
So let's go over the actual Kickstarter a little bit here. You guys have 85 backers already. You're doing a 30-dayer. You've only done, what is it, 8 days so far. Your stretch goal's been met. Sorry, your pledge level's been met of 2,000. Stretch goal's been met, and you guys are now aiming on towards the 3,500, if I'm not mistaken. That's the next stretch goal that you're looking for.
$dollars away from 3,500. So everything from here on in is just gimme. One of the things that we do with our Kickstarters is we don't ask for a whole lot of money. Really, we are only asking for what it takes to make the adventure. Okay, and everything beyond that is completely up to the people who follow us, follow our product, and what do you want to see us do. So from here on in, we are going to take all the additional money and we're going to throw it at really cool stuff. So we've got some great artists lined up. If you haven't seen Jacob Button's Lizard Man already, I mean, fantastic.
Well, I linked it in there already, so people can see it as they're watching. You guys got the Hero Lab done already, too, I see.
Yes, yes. We're bringing Terry Pavlett, who's done work for DC and Image Comics, Fantasy Flight Games, White Wolf, Wizards of the Coast. He's a good dude. Met him several times at other conventions. He's going to do a lot of work for us. Probably the main artist for the adventure. Very gritty style that he does. But then we're also, let's see, Jeff Easley. Yes, Jeff Easley is going to do several full-page illustrations for us. Those of you who are old-school gamers, I mean, his name should resonate greatly with you. Yeah. Let's see. Obviously, yourself, you're doing some great cartography for us. Do you have any of that you'd like to show off? Or should we wait?
Show off what?
Oh, I don't know if you can show off any of the images of that.
I have of the map, you mean?
Sure.
Yeah, I can definitely do that stuff. I'll put it up in there as well. I already put the Lizard Man. I'm adding some other stuff. We did have a guy really quick ask. They want to know if it was covered at a Gladiator event at GaryCon. Woot says you use the house rules that bleed damage stacks, which I like and think makes sense. Any mention of that in the Fen? Yeah, actually, we did talk about bleed. The Lizard Men's weapons break and have the bleed abilities. So
exactly right.
That shit will stack and you will die.
So remember, this is a Laying Waste compatible adventure, and so all those optional rules like bleed stacking out of Laying Waste will be. I mean, that's up to your GM, but yeah, I'd say go for it. By all means, have fun, get silly, get bloody, kick some ass. Yep.
And then for maps, yeah, I have the one we have posted in the updates right now. I have another one we'll be posting up this week of the hut encounter. I don't know how much of it all we want to show because I don't want everyone to get tactical ideas because some of these maps are hard and based on your ability to make tactical decisions on the fly.
There is that.
Right. But I'll show some. I'll show the one we have, but there's some crazy stuff in here.
I guess I was going to say, as we keep going through these stretch goals, from here on in, everything is for the backers. We've already gotten everything that we want. We can do the adventure. We can do it well. Everything from here on in is rewards for you for supporting us. We've had over 10 different companies provide additional PDFs for us to give away for free as we hit these stretch goals.
Yeah, the Gripply, I already have that one. That is an amazing PDF.
Yep. So I'll quick run through some of these, but yeah, Abandoned Arts, Amazing Races, the Gripply, Enid Games, Novus Draco. Let's see, The Secrets of Herbs and Herbs of the Jungle by Necromancers of the Northwest.
Is that Alchemy?
Probably Alchemy, yes. Tabletop Adventures, Bits of Adventure into the Swamp. Let's see, Adventure Week Games, Wild Thing. Rogue Genius Games Codex Draconis, Black Lords of the Marsh, Silver Crescent Publishing Claws of Pilazin, Scrying Eye Games Basic Terrains Swamplands,
Nice.
and even Frog God Games Against Sagatha. And so I can imagine that with all those adventures and all those supplements, plus our own adventure, you have got a kick-ass swamp campaign that you can run.
Yeah, easily. That would actually be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then you also have a lot of add-ons too, which just some of the big ones that I noticed immediately was Laying Waste print for $30, your Feats Reforged 1, 2, and 3, $13 each if you want those printed. You can add PDFs as well for them at about half the price for these. And then you have Ultimate Gladiator. I own it. If you don't own Ultimate Gladiator, it will make you look at fighters in a different light. They're their own class, but fighters now look like pansies. I'm just saying. So that's in there as well. You have your Bleeding Hollow in here as well. And, of course, the good old TPK shirt. Are you going to have access to the Laying Waste shirt, the Get Your Crit Together?
You know what? I could make those very easily.
I still don't have one. Because I want one. I've told people that saying so many times.
It's a great saying, yes.
And you guys have you've already have 4 updates, only 8 days in. That's actually a shit ton of updates, only being 8 days in. And you have one of these updates is you're having chase cards. I love the chase mechanic that was offered by Paizo. What are you guys doing with this chase mechanic?
Go, Skip.
Well, I discovered the chase mechanic because I wanted to do something like that, and I thought, well, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I'll see if somebody else has already done it. And sure enough, Paizo had. So I just used their mechanic. I added a few specifics to it. We've come up with our own cards, and I love the artwork on the back of them. The front side has some fun information, makes the chase very much more interesting than it otherwise would be.
Well, I love the chase mechanic because it takes you away from having to move squares on a map, and how it relates back to almost a labyrinth with different options on how to get through an area. So instead of having to have an entire table 3 maps deep to show how your players are running through a city or a marsh or whatever chasing, this really allows the players to go, all right, I'm going to use acrobatics to get through this wall, and if they add some flair, the GM can give them a +2. I'm assuming you guys added some specific stuff for a marsh, and that's why you guys did your own cards?
Yes.
Awesome. I hope people draw.
That's a horrible answer.
So, actually, they're all custom, aren't they, Skip? Every single card is custom.
Well, yeah, because I'm assuming they're their own skill checks, your own things you have to do. That's cool. And you guys also offer, it looks like, encounter cards, too.
Yes, I wanted them to be, okay, the chase, each card represents an hour of travel in this particular chase. The PCs have traveled 3 days out, so they're going to be running the same distance back. I was imagining, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli chasing after the Uruk-hai. It's a days-long chase. They're going to be running for many hours through the swamp. So I don't want the DM to have to stop and fight short battles, especially since the PCs will very likely get spread out. They won't be in the same card.
It's time to run and leave your friends behind.
Exactly. So the encounter cards act very much like the chase cards. They give the players a couple of DCs that they can try to go for, and it's a quick outcome determiner for the brief encounter.
And it basically allows you to put 8 hours together in a short time frame, yet still have it enjoyable instead of I was running, cut to the piece.
Exactly.
And
it's still very
exciting. I've actually gotten
I think chase encounters are a great way to swap out normal combat.
The other thing that they do for us old school folks is it brings back that gaming without miniatures, where all the pictures were so vivid in your head.
It does.
You know, and you're not relying on a miniature. You don't see your terrain as squares. You know, it's all in your head.
Yeah, and I always remember back to the old, this isn't dating me, I'm sure some people have been reading it, the old Driss scene when they're all running from trolls in the marsh. Or no,
Yep,
forest.
Yep.
Trolls in the forest. That was epic, and that's the scene I always remember when I used chase mechanics. I am stoked for that.
Yeah, hats off to Paizo. They really did a good job on the chase mechanics.
Thank you for abusing it in a marsh where I get to kill people with hydras.
Dude, the chase is brutal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited. I have not.
Rick, did you play it already?
I play tested it a couple different times in its earlier formats, and it is just brutal. It is brutally delicious, is what it is. They are going to love it and hate it at the same time.
Oh, that's the best kind of GMing.
Mm-hmm.
So, you guys have put together quite the crazy amount of stuff for this campaign, and you're already hit your goals, so people know they're getting. I also know that you guys added. You listened to your fans. They wanted a print copy, so you added a print copy.
Yeah. In fact, I could talk about that just a quick bit. One of the things that we wanted to attempt here was what we were going to dub a quick starter, where we did everything via PDF. We delivered it very, very quickly, had a super fast turnaround, and then we just sent out coupons so that people could print their own books.
Right.
But there's actually a lot of people who said, you know what, I don't want to mess with it. I would rather just order it from you, have you ship it the standard way. So, yeah, we listened. We did exactly what you're asking, and we created a physical print copy reward. So, for those of you who checked it out initially and only saw PDF, there is now a print copy reward.
Well, we've also been getting a lot of questions on print copies for maps. So how do we want to handle that?
Well, the goal right now is we're definitely going to include a PDF print your own. However, we should have a product on DriveThruRPG where you'll be able to literally print hard maps and get them mailed off to your home.
And the biggest difference for that on the printer side of things is when you print things on your printer at home, you always have that edge border around it. Our goal is, we hope we can get no bleed. Some printers at home can print, like this one can do no bleed. There are some out there that can. But if you go through the print on demand, our hope is to get no bleed and you can get those really nice maps. Are we able to get fold-out style? I didn't even ask that.
I don't think so.
It's just going to be 8.5s, no bleed, kind of like Citadel of Pain and companies like that have done.
Yeah, so the beauty, though, of the print your own tiles is you'll be able to get those printed off and sent to you, and you could order multiple copies and just slap them down and create a gigantic swamp if you wanted to.
And if there's enough cry for what we're doing, my goal is to take pieces from each map and have them be tokens that you can print out to kind of build your own laid-out map for random encounters for this game, for other games. But that's if there's enough cry, because if there's not, we'll just do the print on demand. So if enough people ask, I'll add a bonus section in the back with your own lily pad groupings you can use, bridges, huts, islands, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think that'll be fun.
Yeah, I do too. I would love. If it doesn't happen for this, I'll have them at home.
So, hey, I saw on our own Total Party Kill Games Facebook page, Jacob Blackman actually posted and said, "Hey, what's new about this adventure? Are there any new monsters, hazards, or traps that will enhance the play over standard swamp-based adventure?" So, Skip, do you want to talk about that maybe? What's new? What's different?
I love monsters.
Absolutely. Well, of course, everybody's expecting the Five-Fold Maw to be new and different. It's not just a Hydra. It's much more dangerous than a five-headed Hydra.
Don't
much
ruin
more
it.
fun. Okay, I'll stop there with the. I also included a very fun monster that has been in Dungeons and Dragons forever, but I've never used one because it's such a goofy monster.
The Flump?
But no. It's a swamp monster, but it's much too powerful for this adventure. So I found that Frog God Games has an immature version of this creature, and I won't give that away either. But the lizard folk have quite a few of these immature versions tamed.
I know what it is now. Yeah.
That's gonna be rude.
Yep, they're fun. I came up with fun battlefields, I believe, especially the giant lily pads. They make battles much more fun for everybody. You know, fumbles are almost as fun for players as critical hits are, at least in the long run when you can laugh about it.
A quick plug.
I only lost 3 characters.
Yeah. If you guys aren't using Laying Waste, if you're watching this video and you're hearing us, you really should download it. Yeah, just go buy the PDF. You know you want it, okay? Trust me.
Well, so as someone who didn't work on it and just play tested it, what I can say about Laying Waste and compatibility with this is someone asked earlier, bleed effects stack, and they do. So my party at home abuses the living bejesus out of that, and bleed stacks, so they're making people bleed. But we use the wound and hit point scale, so bleed goes to wounds. So they really abuse it. Like, they murder people who are 100, hit points quicker because they go right for those vital arteries. But the best thing is
you can do it to them.
Oh yeah, and I do. It brings back this old style of crit where magical things happen, like enemies lose fingers on one hand in a combat, but they get away, and later on they still have them, and it's part of the story, but it takes a mechanical effect as well. You can get things healed, you can repair things. My party decapitated one of my main bosses with that fucking table. Yeah. It was awesome, though. It's something that we all remember every time.
That's what it's about, is making that really fun, flavorful combat. It's not just about doing gazillions of hit points of damage.
Exactly. It's not. And people now stack because the way the crit system works. Instead of that crit and confirmation, you're critting, you're getting that satisfaction of damage. There's no confirmation. You're getting extra damage. You're doing what you should do. But instead of a confirmation to crit, you're confirming how bad did you fuck them up.
Yeah.
But is it just a nick, or did you chop off half their face?
Right.
So I love it. It's great. I've play tested the hell out of it. It's one of my favorites. And I think for this, I can't wait to see natural attack crits because they're brutal.
Oh, especially by such a large creature as the...
Oh, yeah, his bonus to do it is astronomically high. We do have another question here, too. So this one is from Twitter. This person would like to know, with this game being put out, are there going to be any form of paper miniatures, or do you have any products that already have paper miniatures for this?
Well, I tell you what, that's not something that we had planned on. However, I know the right people to make that happen, and that could be a very, very fun stretch goal.
I just want to see the Hydra.
Yes.
I think that would be... If there's stretch goal got hit, I think that would be amazing. Yeah. To go on the tactical maps, I'm all for it. Any other questions you guys have on any of your ends?
Nope, not really. Let's see. Skip, how many players have you killed playtesting with this adventure? I really must know.
I didn't keep track, but I think there's only one party. I told you I usually get about a third of the way through the adventure when I playtest it at conventions, because they don't do a whole lot of role-playing. We're playtesting for the
mechanics
and all. There's only been one group that did not lose anybody in that third, and I think it was the first third where they met Thrazim, and I think they charmed him, so I fixed that. They were a smart party. They led him into an ambush, and they charmed him, and so I rewrote it a little bit to prevent him being so easily overcome. But yes, I've killed probably a couple dozen player characters
Jeez.
and the playtesting.
And that's how it should be.
My next question is, this is very important to me. This is like one of those elements that must be in every single adventure. Otherwise, I just don't feel right. I can't
We already
sleep
talked
well at
about
night.
beer being in it.
No, are there any undead?
I will leave that a mystery.
Okay.
I want swamp mummies.
It is possible, but I don't want to say yes or no because it will give away one of the mysteries that is in the adventure itself.
Sounds good.
I still want swamp mummies. I want them wrapped in lily pad strips.
Mm,
And I want them to be stretchy with like 15-foot reach because they're rubbery from the swamp. Yep, I think if I run this, it's going to be a random encounter. It's going to happen.
Yuck.
Yeah, exactly.
Viking bog mummies or something. Yeah.
So I would say as R&R then, I have some questions for everybody. You guys can answer these, whoever has first answer for it. What is the most memorable PC death that you have either caused or had yourself?
Oh, gee. Can I go first?
Go.
Because
Shotgun style.
Brian has a history of killing my characters. So possibly, yeah. The most memorable would be I was playing an elven cleric who was a little bit too big for his britches. Of course, yeah. Well, didn't we end up in 3.0 though? It wasn't the last game we ran 3.0. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So of course, with Brian's game, we of course faced off against an avatar of Gorgon. Demogorgon. Of course, we had to fight Demogorgon. So this is after we met most of the other princes of hell. And so, being a priest paladin-esque type character, I stepped forward to cast some certain spell, and of course, got my head chopped off. We had a chronomancer in the party. Yeah, so it was pretty much old school. We had a chronomancer who
Favorite class of all time.
Right.
They're cheaty
Halted
pants.
in reverse time, so I didn't. That's why I wasn't dead. And of course, it reversed time, so the initiative fell in the same order, and so I got my head cut off again. So I died twice.
Yeah,
in a
and
matter of 2 rounds.
Is I roll in front of these guys when I GM. I don't pull any punches, but I roll what I roll, and I let everyone see what I roll. And my dice have it out for PJ.
Yep.
Sometimes that shit happens.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's a loaded dice and you don't know it. So anybody else? Memorable PC death or PC that you killed?
Come on, Rick.
Well, you think. We have a question while you're thinking. So how does the backer go about demanding that you make the tokens that you were talking about? Easy. Pledge.
Yeah, definitely.
Get the pledge level high enough. We'll make it happen if it's something the audience wants. I'm pretty sure that's Brian's motto for everything.
That's right. Yeah, we'll have to figure out how much it costs. We'll talk to the right people, and then we'll put it in there among the stretch goals.
And my question to that person would be: do you mean the miniatures, or do you mean the map tokens to build out, or do you mean both? That'd be my other question. I think he means the map tokens because the other one were minis. I'm sure he'll post another question.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? I stalled.
If people share this Kickstarter, if you help promote it and our stretch goals keep pushing up, yeah, we'll keep doing crazy, awesome things. That's what we're here for.
Do you guys remember that owl bear in the Caves of Chaos?
Oh, yeah.
I have killed so many PCs with that owl bear and the gray oozes. Usually, I can
That's
lure
just a shitty combo. Jesus.
I can lure the PCs toward the oozes because there's the water and they're just attracted, or the shiny goblet in the water. So the oozes attack, and then the players are fighting the oozes and they don't know how to hurt them, and somebody's been dropped on and they're all panicking and not paying attention. But the noise, of course, wakes the owlbear and it sneaks up behind them. And the best time I roll, it gets claw, both claws hit, it hugs, then it gets a bite. I rolled critical hit for both claws, and the hug killed the PC. I went ahead and rolled for the bite. It was another natural 20. Ripped the guy's head right off. The players were all sitting around the table, wide-eyed, just thinking,
Care Bear hugs that kill.
exactly. And then they all panicked. The ones that were not trapped by the ooze, the 3 oozes that are there, and the owlbear, they all ran out. By the time that battle was done, there was 1 of 8 PCs still standing. And he carried all the other bodies out to the horses and back to the keep.
So, next TPK, or a question from R&R here would be, you guys have the Ultimate Gaming Group package, Be Epic. You'll run the entire group, it sounds like. Is this something you're going to be doing at a convention? Are you doing it online? And who is running the game?
Skip is actually going to run the entire, well, at least a large portion of the adventure at Gamehole Con.
Okay.
And,
Yes.
I believe there might be 5 spots left. So if you're interested, we buy your badge, we run the adventure, Skip, the author, will run it for you, and we provide shirts and free pizza. So you
That's
can't
the
really
Game
beat
Hole
that.
Guru. That's right, the Game Hole Guru. Nice. That would be fun. I think I'm working TeslaCon during the day, but I will be partying at night with everybody. And I am doing a beer tasting there as well for everybody.
Sweet.
Yeah, I know, dangerous. Maybe I'll do one. Well, maybe I'll do a pairing with Fen. I have some ideas for beers for that. And then our last question, I think for the night, unless we get another one that pops up here. He was talking about the map tokens. He says I've got to have them, so we will see what we can do. But as for our last question for TPK, this is
Let me interject. Those
yeah.
map tokens, I absolutely love that idea. I want it to go through because I want GMs to be able to rearrange those to have a battle map for every wandering encounter that they have during the swamp in this adventure.
Their little heart's desire.
It would be so convenient to have a slightly different swamp map every time they encounter something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have ideas that are already maybe sort of started. My Surface Pro is already down here. So the last question for you guys is really simple, and this one will be more about things coming up in the future. You got the Fen going on. Everything's going to be done with this in 20-something days. What can they look forward to from TPK Games before the end of this year? Any other little tidbits you want to put out? Any little minor announcements for watching through this far?
Brian, you got anything?
Brian.
Brian.
Is that his thinking face or his shitting
My Am I dead? Did I lag?
I can see you.
Am I out? Hello?
Anything you want to announce? Anything that's... Thank you for watching through to the very end.
We can hear you, Brian. Can you hear us?
Yeah, it's lagging really hard.
Let's click off our
You're
logo.
not lagging now. You're good.
I will plug one thing. Another Kickstarter that may not happen this year, but it's possible. We are working on an Atlantis-themed adventure path and source book.
Oh, so you can take the swamps to Atlantis. Great.
We're working with the Four Horsemen, and they are giving us a solid adventure path plus Atlantis-themed source book. So I have my own ideas on what Atlantis should be, and they are not mermen that live under the sea and ride around on
No SpongeBob SquarePants.
No, it's nothing like that. Although David Bowie is awesome in that, but no, this is going to be a really interesting take on technology, planar travel, time travel. It's going to be a really, really mind-bending adventure path. So I look forward to it a lot. And then that's just the one thing that I'm mentioning. There's a lot in the works. So everyone who supports our products, you're just helping us put together more fun stuff. So we thank you very, very much.
My theme for this entire thing so far has been the Mario dungeon level song, Murder, 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 Murder. That's all right, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. Unless there's any other last things anybody wants to say, it looks like James wants to know if he's going to be a booth babe this year.
James who? Lewis?
Yep.
I knew it.
Tell you what, buddy, you're in a swimsuit and standing in front of the booth, no one's going to be there.
That's right.
There's not enough free beer in the world, buddy. All right, well, thank you guys for joining us. I'm excited to see how this Kickstarter goes. I love the fact that this adventure is going to be as brutal and as bloody as possible. And then maybe... What's that?
When's the last time you ran a really awesome swamp adventure? Think about that.
I can't. First edition?
It's time.
It is definitely time. Maybe we should set up an online one and run some of this.
Ooh, yeah.
Why not? Pick your favorite encounter from the book that isn't a dead giveaway and let's murder some people.
Yeah, sounds great.
I'd be happy. I can put everything in here and you guys can just murder people.
That'd be fun. Murder.
Yeah, we'll test out whatever area you need to test, Skip.
All right. I think it's all pretty deadly, but I could always use the practice killing PCs.
All right, guys. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for
this is
having
Eric.
us.
You're welcome.
Eric.
This is Eric from Refresh and Reload. To the TPK crew, murder some more people, all right?
Right. See ya.
Good night.
Have a good one, everybody.